When I first met Lisa, it felt like something out of a fairy tale. I was in my late 20s, working at a mid-sized tech company in Seattle. Lisa was an artist, full of creativity and life, always surrounded by her sketches and paints. We were introduced at a friend's dinner party, and from the moment our eyes met, there was an undeniable spark. We quickly fell into a whirlwind romance, and within a year, we were married. Our daughter Emily was born 2 years later. She was the embodiment of our love, with Lisa's bright blue eyes and my dark hair. From the day she was born, Emily became the center of our universe. Every milestone, her first smile, her first steps, her first words, was a cause for celebration. We were the perfect little family, and life seemed to be on a constant high. We bought a charming house in a quiet neighborhood just outside the city. It was an old Victorian with a garden in the back where Lisa loved to plant flowers and herbs. Weekends were spent enjoying family picnics, playing in the park, or having barbecues with friends and neighbors. Lisa and I took turns cooking, and she was always trying out new recipes that filled our home with mouth-watering aromas. Our evenings were cozy and filled with laughter. We would watch movies together, play board games, or simply talk about our days. Emily loved when Lisa read her bedtime stories, always animated and full of different voices for each character. Sometimes I would sit by the door, listening to their giggles and feeling like the luckiest man in the world. Lisa and I had a strong bond. We communicated openly and supported each other's dreams. She encouraged me to take risks in my career, and I supported her decision to start her own small art studio. We celebrated each other's successes and were there for each other during the tough times. I never doubted for a moment that Lisa was my soulmate. One of my favorite memories was the summer trip we took to the Grand Canyon. It was Emily's first big vacation, and she was so excited about everything. We hiked the trails, took countless photos, and even camped under the stars. Lisa painted a beautiful landscape of the canyon, which still hangs in our living room. That trip solidified our bond as a family, and I often reminisced about those moments, believing they were the foundation of our happiness. As the years went by, our lives continued to flourish. Emily started kindergarten, and watching her grow into a curious, kind-hearted child filled me with immense pride. She excelled in her studies, made friends easily, and developed a love for art just like her mother. Our weekends became busier with school projects, playdates, and art classes. Lisa's art studio began to gain recognition. She held exhibitions and started selling her paintings. I was proud of her achievements and loved watching her eyes light up with excitement whenever she talked about her work. Our home was filled with her artwork, each piece telling a story of our life together. We also made time for ourselves as a couple. Date nights were sacred, and we never let the hustle and bustle of life interfere with our time together. We enjoyed going out for dinners, attending concerts, or simply taking long walks by the waterfront. Those moments allowed us to reconnect and keep the spark alive in our marriage. Our friends often commented on how perfect our relationship seemed. We were the couple everyone looked up to, the ones who had it all figured out. I took pride in that, feeling like we had cracked the code to a happy marriage. Our communication was open, our love was strong, and our family was thriving. Lisa was an amazing mother. She was patient, loving, and always found creative ways to engage with Emily. They spent hours together painting, drawing, and creating beautiful crafts. Their bond was heartwarming, and I loved watching them share those special moments. It reassured me that we were building a solid foundation for Emily's future. However, as with any marriage, we had our challenges. Balancing work, parenting, and personal time wasn't always easy. There were days when we were exhausted and overwhelmed, but we always found a way to support each other. Whenever one of us felt down, the other would step in with a comforting word or a loving gesture. It was a partnership built on mutual respect and deep affection. We celebrated our 10th wedding anniversary with a trip to Hawaii. It was a dream vacation, just the two of us, leaving Emily with her grandparents for a week. We explored the islands, relaxed on the beaches, and enjoyed the tranquility of being together without any distractions. It was a reminder of why we fell in love in the first place and reinforced our commitment to each other. As we stood on the beach, watching the sunset on our last night in Hawaii, I held Lisa close and whispered, I love you more than anything in this world. She smiled and kissed me, and in that moment, I believed with all my heart that we would always be together, facing whatever life threw at us. But life, as it often does, had other plans. And the perfect picture I had in my mind was about to be shattered in ways I never imagined. It started subtly, little things that I could have easily brushed off if they hadn't started to pile up. Lisa became increasingly irritable, snapping at me and Emily over minor issues. At first, I thought it was just the stress of her growing art business. Managing an art studio, especially with the level of success Lisa was achieving, was no small feat. But her frustration seemed to bleed into every aspect of our lives. One evening, as we sat down for dinner, Emily accidentally spilled her milk. Lisa, who was normally so patient, exploded. "Can't you be more careful?" she yelled, startling both Emily and me. Emily's eyes welled up with tears, and she mumbled an apology. I quickly grabbed a towel and cleaned up the mess, trying to calm the situation. "It's okay, Emily. Accidents happen," I said softly, glaring at Lisa in confusion. Lisa didn't apologize. Instead, she excused herself from the table and went to her studio, leaving Emily and me to finish dinner in an uncomfortable silence. These outbursts became more frequent. Lisa's patience, once a hallmark of her personality, seemed to have vanished. She started spending more time in her studio, often working late into the night. When I asked her about it, she brushed me off, saying she had deadlines to meet and needed the time to focus. I tried to be supportive, giving her the space she needed, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Emily, always sensitive to the moods of those around her, began to withdraw. She spent more time in her room, drawing and reading, and less time with Lisa and me. I made extra efforts to spend time with her, taking her to the park or helping her with her school projects, but I could see the hurt in her eyes. She missed the closeness she once shared with her mother. One evening, as I was tucking Emily into bed, she looked up at me with a worried expression. "Daddy, why is Mummy always so angry?" she asked, her voice trembling. My heart broke at her question. "I don't know, sweetheart," I replied, stroking her hair gently. "Mummy has a lot on her mind with her work, but she loves you very much. Never forget that." Emily nodded, but I could see she wasn't convinced. And truth be told, neither was I. I decided to talk to Lisa about it, hoping we could find a way to address whatever was troubling her. One night, after Emily was asleep, I approached Lisa in her studio. She was hunched over her work, her face illuminated by the soft glow of her desk lamp. "Lisa, we need to talk," I said, taking a seat across from her. She didn't look up from her work. "What is it, William?" she asked, her tone clipped and impatient. "I'm worried about you. You've been so stressed and distant lately, and Emily is feeling it too. She asked me why you're always so angry." That got her attention. She looked up, her expression softening for a moment before hardening again. "I'm just under a lot of pressure, Will. The studio is demanding more of my time and energy than I anticipated. I'm doing my best." "I understand that," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "But we need to find a balance. Emily needs you. I need you. We can't keep going on like this." She sighed, rubbing her temples. I know, I'm sorry. I'll try to do better. But I can't just drop everything at the studio. This is important to me too." "I'm not asking you to drop everything. Just, let's find a way to manage this together. We're a team, remember?" She nodded, but I could tell her mind was elsewhere. I wanted to believe things would improve, that Lisa would find a way to balance her work and our family. But the unease in my gut persisted, and I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her behavior than just work stress. Weeks passed, and while there were brief moments of normalcy, the tension in our home remained. Lisa continued to work late, often coming to bed long after I'd fallen asleep. I tried to be understanding, but my patience was wearing thin. I missed the closeness we once shared, the laughter and warmth that had defined our relationship. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a Saturday, and we had planned to go out for dinner to celebrate Emily's 7th birthday. I had made reservations at a nice restaurant, inviting a few close friends and family. It was supposed to be a special evening, a chance to focus on Emily and create some happy memories amidst the tension. Lisa had gone out earlier in the day, saying she needed to pick up a few things for the celebration. She promised to be back in time to get ready and join us, but as the hours ticked by, I started to worry. I called her several times, but she didn't answer. Emily was dressed in her favorite dress, excited about the dinner, but I could see the disappointment creeping in as time passed. Finally, just as we were about to leave for the restaurant, Lisa called. "I'm on my way," she said hurriedly. "I got held up, but I'll meet you there." Relieved, I gathered Emily and headed to the restaurant, hoping Lisa would arrive soon. We were seated, and I tried to keep the mood light, chatting with our guests and keeping Emily entertained. But as the minutes turned into an hour, my concern grew. Where was Lisa? It wasn't until much later that night, after the dinner had ended and we had returned home, that I learned the truth. And it shattered the illusion of our perfect family forever. The evening of Emily's birthday dinner was supposed to be special. As we waited at the restaurant, Emily's excitement started to wane. Our friends and family tried to keep her spirits up, but it was clear she was disappointed that her mother wasn't there yet. I checked my phone repeatedly, hoping for an update from Lisa, but there was nothing. After waiting for over an hour, I decided to start the dinner without her. We ordered Emily's favorite dishes, and I tried to put on a brave face, engaging in conversations and making sure Emily felt celebrated. Still, my mind kept drifting to Lisa and why she hadn't shown up. Finally, as dessert was being served, my phone buzzed. It was Lisa, but instead of calling, she sent a text. "I'm so sorry, Will. I'm almost there. Please don't be angry." The message felt off, and I couldn't shake the sense of unease. Dinner wrapped up without any sign of Lisa. Emily blew out her candles, surrounded by her friends and family, but there was a lingering sadness in her eyes. I reassured her that Mummy would explain everything, and that we'd have a special celebration with just the three of us once Lisa arrived. We got home, and I put Emily to bed, promising her that everything would be okay. My mind raced with scenarios, each more worrisome than the last. I wanted to believe that Lisa had a good reason for missing most of the evening, but deep down, I feared the worst. Just as I was about to call her again, I heard the front door open. Lisa walked in, looking disheveled and avoiding my eyes. I stood in the living room, waiting for an explanation. "Where have you been?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She hesitated, fumbling with her coat. I'm sorry, Will. Things just got out of hand. I was running errands, and there was so much traffic. I didn't mean to be late." "Running errands?" I repeated, skepticism creeping into my tone. "For 6 hours? You missed Emily's entire birthday dinner." She looked down, biting her lip. "I know, and I feel terrible about it. I'll make it up to her, I promise." Her excuses felt thin, and I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. "Lisa, this isn't like you. What's really going on?" She finally met my gaze, her eyes full of tears. "I don't know what you want me to say. I got caught up. I'm sorry." Frustrated and exhausted, I decided to let it go for the night. "We'll talk about this in the morning," I said, turning away. "But this isn't over." The next morning, Lisa seemed determined to make amends. She prepared a big breakfast, showering Emily with attention and gifts. But I could see the strain behind her smile, and it only deepened my suspicions. Over the next few days, I kept a closer eye on Lisa. She continued to work late, spending more time than ever at her studio. One evening, curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to check her computer. Lisa had always been open with her passwords, so it wasn't hard to access her emails and social media. What I found confirmed my worst fears. There were emails and messages from various men, some explicit, detailing meetups and conversations that had clearly gone beyond friendship. My heart pounded as I scrolled through the evidence, feeling a mix of anger, betrayal, and disbelief. One message stood out. It was from a man named Jake, and it was dated the same day as Emily's birthday dinner. "Had a great time last night," it read. "Looking forward to our next rendezvous. Maybe this time, no interruptions." I felt sick. The realization that Lisa had been with another man while I waited at the restaurant with our daughter was too much to bear. I confronted her that night. unable to contain my anger any longer. "Lisa, I know what you've been doing," I said, my voice trembling. "I found your messages, all of them. How could you do this to us?" Her face went pale and she seemed to shrink before my eyes. "Will, Don't," I cut her off. "Don't try to deny it. You've been cheating on me, on our family. And you missed Emily's birthday dinner because you were with another man. How could you?" She collapsed into a chair, covering her face with her hands. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I never meant for it to get this far. I was just so unhappy and lonely. I needed an escape." "An escape?" I repeated, incredulous. "From what, Lisa? From the life we built together? From Emily? How could you be so selfish?" Tears streamed down her face as she tried to explain. "It started with just chatting online. I didn't think it would go anywhere. But then I met Jake, and it felt good to be wanted again. I know it was wrong, but I didn't know how to stop." I stood there, feeling a mix of rage and sorrow. The woman I loved, the mother of my child, had betrayed us in the worst possible way. "You need to leave," I said finally, my voice cold and detached. "Pack your things and go. I can't even look at you right now." "Will, please," she begged. "Let's talk about this. I can't leave Emily. She needs her mother." "Emily needs stability, and right now you're not providing that," I replied. "I need you out of this house. We'll figure out the details later, but for now, just go." Lisa packed a bag and left, tears still streaming down her face. I watched her go, feeling a strange sense of relief mixed with the overwhelming weight of betrayal. That night, I sat in Emily's room, watching her sleep, and vowed to protect her from the fallout of Lisa's actions. Our lives had been turned upside down, but I was determined to be there for my daughter, no matter what. The house felt emptier without Lisa, even though I knew it was the right decision to ask her to leave. Emily was confused and heartbroken, sensing the tension but not fully understanding the reasons behind it. I tried to maintain a sense of normalcy for her sake, but it was difficult. Every corner of the house reminded me of the life we had built together, now shattered by betrayal. The days following Lisa's departure were a blur of emotions. I oscillated between anger, sadness, and a strange numbness that settled over me like a heavy fog. I barely slept, my mind replaying the events over and over again. Emily, ever observant, asked about her mother constantly. "Daddy, where's Mummy? When is she coming back?" she asked one evening as we sat down for dinner. I took a deep breath, struggling to find the right words. "Mummy needed some time away, sweetheart, but she loves you very much, and we'll figure things out together." Emily nodded, her eyes filled with worry. "Will she come back soon?" "I don't know, Emily, but we're going to be okay, I promise." I reached out to Lisa's parents and explained the situation, carefully omitting the more painful details. They were shocked and disappointed, but agreed to support Emily and me during this difficult time. Lisa's mother offered to take Emily for a few weekends to give me some space to sort things out, which I gratefully accepted. As I tried to navigate life without Lisa, I decided it was time to seek legal advice. I contacted a lawyer who specialized in family law, and we discussed my options. The idea of divorce felt surreal, but I knew it was inevitable. Lisa's betrayal had destroyed any chance of reconciliation. The lawyer, a kind woman named Margaret, laid out the steps we needed to take. "First, we'll file for separation, and then move towards divorce," she explained. "Given the circumstances, we can argue for full custody of Emily. It's clear that her stability and well-being are your top priority." Hearing those words brought a sense of relief, but also a new wave of sadness. This wasn't how I had envisioned our lives turning out. But for Emily's sake, I had to be strong and move forward. I reached out to Lisa and told her about my decision to file for divorce. There was a long silence on the other end of the line before she finally spoke. "I understand," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'll cooperate with whatever you need. I just want to make sure Emily is okay." "She will be," I replied, trying to keep my emotions in check. "We'll figure out a visitation schedule that works for both of us. But for now, I need to focus on her and making sure she feels safe and loved." Over the next few weeks, we worked out the logistics. Lisa moved in with a friend, and we agreed on a temporary visitation schedule. Emily spent weekends with her mother which seemed to provide some comfort to her. Despite everything, I wanted Emily to have a relationship with Lisa, but it would be on terms that protected her from further emotional turmoil. One evening, while Emily was with her grandparents, I decided to confront the mess of emotions I had been avoiding. I poured myself a drink and sat on the porch, staring at the night sky. The weight of the betrayal, the pain of seeing my family torn apart, it all came crashing down. I allowed myself to cry, to feel the anger and sadness I had been bottling up. I thought back to our life before everything fell apart, the happiness and love we once shared. It felt like a lifetime ago. How had we gotten here? I couldn't help but wonder if there were signs I had missed, moments where I could have intervened and changed the course of our lives. But deep down, I knew that Lisa's choices were her own, and I couldn't carry the burden of her actions. In the midst of this turmoil, my friends and family became my support system. They rallied around Emily and me, offering help and words of encouragement. One friend, David, was particularly supportive. He had gone through a difficult divorce a few years earlier and knew exactly what I was facing. He became my sounding board, helping me navigate the emotional and legal complexities of the situation. "You're stronger than you think, Will," he said one evening over a beer. "This is the hardest part, but you'll get through it, and Emily will be okay because she has you." His words gave me hope. I knew I had to focus on the future, for Emily's sake and for my own. I threw myself into work and found solace in the routine. My colleagues, aware of my situation, were supportive and understanding. I also started seeing a therapist to help process my emotions and find a way forward. Through therapy, I began to understand the depth of my pain and betrayal. I learned that it was okay to feel angry and hurt, and that healing would take time. My therapist encouraged me to focus on rebuilding my relationship with Emily and finding new ways to create happiness in our lives. One of the most challenging aspects was co-parenting with Lisa. Despite everything, she was still Emily's mother, and I wanted to ensure that Emily felt loved and supported by both of us. We established clear boundaries and communication guidelines, which helped reduce some of the tension. Emily, ever resilient, began to adjust to the new normal. We created new routines and traditions, finding joy in the little things. Movie nights, trips to the park, and weekend outings became our way of bonding and healing. Slowly, the house started to feel like home again, even without Lisa. As the weeks turned into months, I began to see a light at the end of the tunnel. The pain of Lisa's betrayal still lingered, but it no longer consumed me. I found strength in my love for Emily and the support of those around me. One evening, Emily and I sat on the porch watching the sunset. She leaned against me, her small hand in mine. "I love you, Daddy," she said softly. "I love you too, Emily," I replied, feeling a sense of peace wash over me. "Everything is going to be okay." And in that moment, I believed it. We had been through hell, but we were coming out the other side, stronger and closer than ever. As the reality of our new life set in, I found myself grappling with an overwhelming mix of emotions. The anger I felt toward Lisa was almost tangible, a constant presence that gnawed at me day and night. But more than that, there was an aching sadness, a deep sense of loss for the life we once had and the family we had built together. The nights were the hardest. After Emily went to bed, the house was eerily quiet, and I was left alone with my thoughts. I replayed the moments of betrayal in my mind, each memory cutting deeper than the last. I had loved Lisa with everything I had, and her betrayal felt like a knife to the heart. One particularly restless night, I decided to go for a drive. The air was cool and crisp, and the streets were empty. I drove aimlessly, trying to clear my mind. As I navigated the familiar roads of our neighborhood, memories of happier times flooded back. The park where we had picnics, the cafe where we had our first date, the art supply store where Lisa would spend hours selecting materials for her next project. Each place held a memory, a piece of the life we had shared. I ended up at the beach, a place we often visited as a family. The sound of the waves crashing against the shore was soothing, and I walked along the water's edge, letting the cool sand sink beneath my feet. I thought about the promises we had made to each other, the dreams we had for our future, and how it had all come crashing down. The pain was almost unbearable. In the midst of my grief, I realized that I had to let go of the anger and resentment if I was ever going to move forward. It wouldn't be easy, but holding on to the pain would only harm Emily and me. I had to focus on rebuilding our lives and finding a way to heal. I continued seeing my therapist, who helped me work through my emotions. She encouraged me to express my feelings through writing, a practice that proved to be cathartic. I filled pages with my thoughts and emotions, each word helping to release the burden I carried. It was a slow process, but it allowed me to confront the pain head-on and begin the journey toward healing. Emily, ever perceptive, noticed the changes in me. She was incredibly resilient, but I could see that she missed her mother. Despite everything, I wanted to ensure that Emily had a healthy relationship with Lisa. We arranged regular visits, and I made sure to be supportive, even though it was difficult. One weekend, while Emily was with Lisa, I decided to go through some of our old photos. I sat on the living room floor, surrounded by albums filled with memories. As I flipped through the pages, I saw the story of our lives unfold, our wedding day, the birth of Emily, family vacations, and countless moments of joy. The photos told a tale of love and happiness, and I couldn't help but feel a pang of sorrow for what we had lost. But amidst the sadness, I also found moments of gratitude. We had shared many beautiful experiences, and those memories were a testament to the love we once had. I realized that while the pain of betrayal would always be a part of my story, it didn't have to define my future. One afternoon, as Emily and I were playing in the backyard, she looked up at me with a serious expression. "Daddy, do you still love Mummy?" The question caught me off guard. I knelt down to her level, taking her small hands in mine. "Emily, I will always care about your mother because she gave me the greatest gift in the world, you. But sometimes people make mistakes, and it changes things. What's important is that you know both Mummy and I love you very much." She seemed to ponder my words for a moment before nodding. "I love you, Daddy," she said, hugging me tightly. "I love you too, Emily," I replied, holding her close. In that moment, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. My priority was Emily, and ensuring she felt loved and secure. As the weeks turned into months, I focused on creating a stable and loving environment for Emily. We established new routines and traditions, filling our days with activities that brought us joy. I enrolled her in a local art class where she could express her creativity and make new friends. Watching her thrive in this new setting was a source of immense pride and happiness for me. I also began to reconnect with old friends and build a support network. David, my friend who had gone through a similar experience, was a constant source of encouragement. He invited me to join a support group for single parents, which turned out to be incredibly helpful. Sharing my experiences with others who understood my struggles was comforting and provided a sense of community. One evening, after a particularly good day, I received a call from Lisa. Her voice was strained, and I could tell she had been crying. "Will, can we talk?" I hesitated, unsure of what to expect. "Okay, Lisa, what is it?" "I just wanted to apologize for everything," she said, her voice trembling. "I know I hurt you and Emily deeply, and I regret my actions more than I can say. I'm trying to get my life back on track, and I hope we can find a way to co-parent effectively for Emily's sake." Her words were sincere, and despite my lingering anger, I felt a glimmer of hope that we could at least find a way to work together for Emily's benefit. "I appreciate that, Lisa. It's going to take time, but I'm willing to try for Emily." We talked for a while, discussing how we could improve our communication and support each other as parents. It was a difficult conversation, but it was a necessary step toward healing. As the months went by, we settled into a new routine. Emily continued to flourish, and our relationship grew stronger. The pain of betrayal still lingered, but it no longer defined my every waking moment. I found solace in the love and joy that Emily brought into my life, and I focused on building a future that was filled with hope and happiness. One evening, as Emily and I sat on the porch watching the sunset, she looked up at me with a smile. "Daddy, I'm happy," she said simply. I smiled back, my heart swelling with love. "Me too, Emily, me too." In that moment, I realized that while our lives had taken an unexpected turn, we were finding our way forward. We were creating new memories, building a new future, and most importantly, we were healing. The road ahead was still uncertain, but with Emily by my side, I knew we could face anything together. The divorce was finalized on a chilly autumn day, almost a year after Lisa had left. As I walked out of the courthouse, I felt a mix of relief and sorrow. It was the end of a chapter that had once been filled with love and dreams, but also the beginning of a new chapter that I was determined to fill with hope and stability for Emily and me. Emily had adjusted remarkably well to the changes. Her resilience amazed me every day. She excelled in school, made new friends, and continued to nurture her artistic talents. Her art classes became a sanctuary where she could express herself freely, and her artwork was a source of pride for both of us. Lisa and I maintained a civil relationship for Emily's sake. We stuck to the visitation schedule and communicated openly about her needs and activities. While the wounds of betrayal had not fully healed, I found solace in knowing that Emily had both parents in her life, even if we were no longer together. Life gradually took on a new rhythm. I focused on my work, taking on new projects and responsibilities that kept me engaged and motivated. I also made time for self-care, something I had neglected for too long. I started jogging in the mornings, a habit that helped clear my mind and invigorate my spirit. One weekend, while Emily was with Lisa, I decided to attend a single-parent support group meeting that David had recommended. The group met at a local community centre, and as I walked into the room, I was greeted by a circle of friendly faces. It was comforting to be in a space where everyone understood the challenges of raising a child alone. During the meeting, we shared our stories and offered each other support and advice. I was struck by the strength and resilience of the other parents, each of whom had faced their own unique struggles. Hearing their experiences and perspectives helped me feel less alone and more hopeful about the future. After the meeting, I struck up a conversation with a woman named Sarah. She was a single mother of 2 boys, and like me, she had gone through a difficult divorce. We bonded over our shared experiences and exchanged phone numbers, promising to stay in touch. Over the next few months, Sarah and I became good friends. We met for coffee, attended support group meetings together, and even arranged play dates for our children. Her friendship was a source of comfort and companionship, and I found myself looking forward to our time together. As the holiday season approached, I decided to take Emily on a trip to visit my parents. They lived in a small town in the countryside, a place filled with happy memories from my own childhood. It was the perfect escape from the hustle and bustle of the city, and an opportunity for Emily to bond with her grandparents. We spent Christmas in the cozy warmth of my parents' home, surrounded by love and laughter. Emily helped her grandmother bake cookies, and we decorated the tree with ornaments that had been in our family for generations. On Christmas morning, Emily's eyes sparkled with joy as she opened her presents, her laughter filling the room with happiness. One evening, after Emily had gone to bed, my father and I sat by the fireplace, sipping hot cocoa. "I'm proud of you, Will," he said, his voice filled with warmth. "You've been through a lot, but you're doing an amazing job with Emily." "Thanks, Dad," I replied, feeling a lump form in my throat. "I just want to give her the best life possible." "And you are," he said, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Remember, it's okay to move on and find happiness for yourself too." His words stayed with me, and as the new year began, I made a resolution to embrace the future with an open heart. I continued to nurture my friendship with Sarah, and over time, our bond grew deeper. We supported each other through the ups and downs of single parenthood, and our children became close friends. One evening, after a particularly fun day at the park with our kids, Sarah and I sat on a bench watching them play. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the scene. Sarah turned to me, a thoughtful expression on her face. "Will, I know we've both been through a lot, but I want you to know how much I value our friendship. You've been a rock for me." I smiled, feeling a warmth in my chest. "I feel the same way, Sarah. You've been a great friend and support." She hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath. "I've been thinking a lot about us, and I care about you, Will, more than just a friend." Her words took me by surprise, but as I looked into her eyes, I realized that I felt the same way. "I care about you too, Sarah," I said softly. "I didn't expect to feel this way again, but here we are." We both smiled, a mix of relief and happiness washing over us. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with hope and possibility. We decided to take things slow, allowing our relationship to develop naturally. It wasn't just about us. We had our children to consider, and we wanted to ensure that any changes were positive for them as well. As the months passed, Sarah and I grew closer. Our children formed a tight-knit group, and our families blended seamlessly. We supported each other through the challenges of parenthood and celebrated the joys together. It was a partnership built on trust, respect, and a deep understanding of each other's pasts. One summer evening, as we sat on the porch watching the kids play in the yard, Sarah turned to me with a smile. "Will, I never thought I could be this happy again." "Me neither," I replied, taking her hand in mine. "But I'm glad we found each other. Life was far from perfect, but it was beautiful in its own way. We had both endured heartache and betrayal, but we had come out the other side stronger and more resilient. Our journey had brought us to a place of peace and happiness, and for that, I was grateful." As I watched Emily laugh and play with her new friends, I felt a sense of contentment that I hadn't felt in a long time. We had built a new life, one filled with love, laughter, and hope for the future. And in that moment, I knew that everything would be okay. In the end, it wasn't the betrayal that defined us, but how we rose from it. We had created a new family, one built on trust, love, and mutual respect. And as I looked at Sarah, my daughter, and our blended family, I knew that we had found our way home.
Thank you for watching.